Okay, welcome back to part 2 of Gilligan's axle and tire and wheel upgrade. If you didn't catch the first half of this video, you might want to go back, check out the previous one where you get the whole front axle built and everything. This video I put together all at one time, obviously, but it got really long, so I had to break it in half. Where I'm going to pick it up right here is I got to the point where I was waiting for my tires, and I'm not one of those people that's going to have a problem with somebody or something and not call them out. So I'm going to state right now, four-wheel parts, you suck. I had the hugest problem dealing with them when I had ordered my 5 tires. It took forever to even get shipping confirmation. And then when they showed up, I only had 3 tires on a pallet. I was supposed to have 5. I immediately called the shipping company. Shipping company said, not our problem. We ship to you whatever they put on the pallet. Call them. That first day, I spent 2.5 hours on hold. I got through to one person, and that one person transferred me to somebody else. 2.5 hours on hold total on that call before I got hung up on. Of course, that was on Friday. So on the following Monday, I called back again. I spent another 2 hours on the phone being bounced around from 3 different people. Each one saying, oh, I'll transfer you to customer service. I go to the next person. Oh, I'm not customer service. I'll transfer you again. After 2 hours on hold, again, I gave up. It got to the point where I actually had to call my bank and file a fraud case against them. And then a couple days later, I got shipping confirmation on my other 2 tires. Matter of fact, even before I ordered the tires, I ordered some bump stops from 4-wheel parts, and that was on May 5th. Today is June 15th or 16th. I still haven't even got those yet. I have other friends that have bought stuff from them and cannot even get through to the phone to them, so I am done with that company. So I give you warning. If you're thinking about buying stuff from them, think twice. So anyway, enough of my pissing and moaning here. So anyway, I did get the tires, got them mounted, got everything all set for the truck. So we'll pick up the video at that point, basically, where I got the tires, I got them mounted, and getting them on the truck, and we will go from there. So let's go. And guess what else got done today? We got the meats. Oh yeah, 37-inch cam 2s, 17x9 methods. Love this. Well, I got the rear tires on and the spare on. Had to do a little bit of modifications to my spare tire mount. This is a different offset on these wheels. But so far, just eyeballing it, looks like we are going to require a little more hacking on the fenders. I did actually lose a 1/2 inch of track width on each side. So the truck is actually 1 inch narrower with this combination of back spacing and the 9-inch wheels and the spacers. So I'm hoping that when I flex this thing out, I'm hoping the top of this tire, when it tucks up into the fender there, that I'll actually end up with more clearance to that fender lip and I won't have to cut that up. So we'll find out when I get this all back together and outside and flex everything out. But 37s look pretty good on there, I think. And from this side, you can definitely tell she's taller. Spare tires all good. Just got to get the Rotopack back up there. We're good. Actually sucked in a 1/2 inch more than what it was, so I was hoping to be a little bit wider, but I guess I needed a bigger spacer, so this will have to do. She should be just fine. All right, the next part that I'm going to tackle here is I need to add some limit straps to the truck. Never had anything on here. Not that I like airing this thing out or anything, but it's just better on the shocks to not put all that strain of holding the weight of the axle on just the shock alone. So what I got here is I'm actually just working with what I already have. I already had some limit straps here. I'm hoping down the road here, our buddy Dan with Sarge Bronco 2 will actually post what he did on his, because since we got rid of the dual Duff shocks, but we still have the dual shock mount up here, I just added a spacer to take up the width of that, and then down here I just put a longer bolt. So normally there would be another shock here. What Dan actually did was, these shocks, I believe, extended length are like, don't quote me, but like 26 inches fully extended. Dan was able to buy a limit strap that actually went right in place of where the second shock would have normally been from Duff. I believe he went with like a 25-inch limit strap. You want a little bit shorter to allow for some stretch. So that worked out real slick for him. For me, I'm going to do a little bit different because I got tabs. I already have some 14-inch limit straps that I've been sitting on for a while. I'm going to use those. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to unbolt this bolt here from the bracket on the frame. I'm going to bolt my strap into that, and then I'm going to weld a tab down here on the radius arm. So I'll show you what that's going to look like. So right here is the 14-inch limit strap that I got. It's a little shock bracket. So that's what I'm going to add to this. It'll actually work out really, really well. There you go. Bolt it up right there in the Duff coil bucket. Gonna hang down. And I just gotta twist this radius arm back into proper position and push it up. Give me about 3/4 to an inch. And then weld that tab on there. Should work out real good. It's gonna stay tucked behind the shock, so it ain't no way it's gonna get tangled in anything like that. It should either fold that way or fold in towards the shock when it compresses. And since these shocks, these are the 10-inch travel ones, when the axle goes all the way to full compression, I'm still gonna have about 3 inches of gap between the two buckles there, so should work out really well. Okay, I got the both sides on there, cleaned up the radius arms where I'm gonna weld the tabs, but I think what I'm gonna do is I'm not gonna weld the tabs on until I have the axle back bolted to both the radius arms, because right now they're kind of flopping over. I think I want to get those so I know the exact width, get them standing up straight where they're supposed to be, and then have the weight of the axle pulling down on the shocks all the way. That way it'll make it a lot easier for me just to put a jack right in the center of the axle, just jack it up about 3/4 of an inch, and then right there I can, wherever these brackets land on the radius arms, I'll burn them in right there. So that's where I'm going to stop right here for now until the axle's back in. And now I got the G-force, got the lap belt portion of the seat belts in. The shoulder straps won't go in until I get the roll cage built for it, but at least now we got it's much better, easier to use seat belts for off-roading. So we won't have to deal with the stock ones with how they lock up every time you're off camber or hit a big bump or something. So those are in on both sides. So seat belts are upgraded. All right, just picked up the new axle and unloading it right now. Everything turned out real good. Got the new Dana diff cover on there. Really like that piece. So I'm gonna go ahead and get her dropped down and get her in the truck now. So we are getting closer. You can see I got the limit straps hanging there, and I got the RCVs cleaned up, and I put all new Moog ball joints in both the knuckles while everything was apart too. So we're good to go here. So let's get this in. And the front axle is in. There it is. Tell you, that was not fun by myself. 3 different jacks going, a couple jack stands, and me running back and forth side to side. Yeah, that was not cool. But it's in. I have 7-degree bushings in there. I had 2s in it originally, and I can already see the pinion angle is just so much better now. I shouldn't have any problems here getting this geometry exactly where I want it. So I got the coil buckets, the lower mounts on, those are all bolted up. So the next thing is I'm going to go ahead and put the jack underneath the axle on each side. I'm going to lift it up about 3/4 of an inch. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to weld the tabs on for my limit straps. And that way the axle can just hang and it'll take the weight off the shocks. So once that's done, probably throwing the knuckles on, knuckles and axles, and get this thing at ride height, and then start flexing it out and just see how everything clears. I need to make sure there's no clearance issues with the yoke and my Y pipe for the exhaust there. Make sure we have plenty of clearance there at full stuff on that side. So far it's looking good though. Very happy. Moving on. And there we go. Axle is hanging off the limit straps now. Got those tabs all welded on. Brake line is on. Vent tube is on. Part of the steering on there. Knuckles, all new ball joints. So, keep moving on here. Got lots of clearance here between the diff cover and the steering, which I was concerned about. But clearly, tons of room. So, let's keep going here. Like those straps, so we got the coil spring is in, spacers are on now, brake lines, brakes are bled, dry shaft is in, the drag link is on. I let that kind of hang down, and I have tons of angle left in that, so there will be no more binding in the steering now. Everything's greased up, so now it's just a matter of I think throwing the tires on it, and we'll set it on the ground, and then I'm going to start plumbing the air lines for the locker. So, and there it is, sitting on the wheels for the first time. Everything's done. Steering is everything's hooked up. I got it aligned. Everything's greased. Looks pretty damn good, if I do say so myself. Love the way that front end looks. That diff cover, I don't remember having that much ground clearance before. I know it ain't that big of a difference between the two tire setups, but man, looking really good. So all I have to do now is plumb the air locker, and we are ready for a test drive. Wow, hell yeah. The numbers on the top there. Okay. Go ahead. All right, so I got the air locker is all plumbed up and operational now. I got everything checked out, checked for leaks, everything is good. So super simple. What I ended up doing was I bought this little valve here, or little coupler from Power Tank, and it'll accept the line for the air locker. I just have that routed through the interior truck. I got some little hose clamps here, run down through the interior, under the seat and up to the dash, and I'll show you what I did there. So now all I have to do is just crack the bottle open and set the regulator to, Yukon recommends between 90 and 100 PSI to run it. So I have mine just set right at 100. And when I checked everything underneath the truck, everything locks in fine and works really good. So let me show you how I did the switch then. So right here on the interior, I kept it really simple. There's a nice little cutout in the metal dash right here behind this piece of trim. It's just big enough for me to mount that mechanical switch valve there. So I got the air lines run up behind the dash going to that. I'll make a little label for this eventually, but the way it's going to work, I just wrote a little 2 up here and a 4 over here. Pretty self-explanatory. She's off, 2-wheel drive. Actually, it's in 3-wheel drive. Lock in the locker there. I checked everything down there. Everything locks in. Don't hear no air leaks. And when you want it off, there you go. You hear it release the air from the system. So, works real good. And then for under the truck, just had the air line running right there to the top of the housing. I just put a little loop-de-loop in it to give it some slack. And I've already checked it on the RTI ramp, and we are good to go. More than enough slack there, so locking differential is done. So I put it on an RTI ramp and we flexed it all out, and I was able to check for clearances on the body with the new tires and made some marks. And here's what I had to remove from the front fenders. I just kind of made a tape line above that little factory flare in the fender. Then I went ahead and just cut it all out, touched up the paint, and then I trimmed it out with some of that door edge guard stuff you buy at the parts stores. Nothing fancy here, but it turned out good. It gives me all the extra clearance I needed for the tires, so I won't have any issues with that. Cutting a tire, stuff it into that. I won't cut my bald head on that sharp edge anymore either, since I did that earlier. And when I was on the RTI ramp, I figured out my bump stop, and you can see right there, there's a nice convenient hole in the frame rail right there, where I believe where the original fuel pump went. It works out perfect with these tall Daystar bump stops that I had. They're going to work out perfectly right there. It's dead centered over top of the radius arm. So when this comes to full compression, I'm going to go ahead and it'll make contact there and hopefully limit everything before it stuffs stuff into the body or damages the shock. So we're good there. Now on the rear, a little more complicated. Since we have a pinch weld back here, we have the inner fender well is welded to the quarter panel on a pinch weld on the inside. So I got I got it marked where I'm going to cut it. This part right here is all getting cut away. That's that little factory flare that's stamped into the fender. I'm going to cut all that out, and then what I'll have left is an open space there from the inner fender. Then I'll have to figure out a way to seal that up. There is the rear fender piece that I just cut off. It's almost a damn shame to cut such a clean fender lip off of a Bronco 2. There's like no rust in it whatsoever. What a shame, but anyway, so here's what we're left with. So now I have this gap between the inner fender well and the body, which is actually open to the interior. So if I were to just leave that like that, I would kick mud and water right up into the interior behind the interior panels, which I don't want. So I'm gonna have to come up with a way to seal this off. And there we go. All 4 fenders are trimmed. Turned out really good, I think. Took off just enough, but kept that little character line. Get the edge guard on there. And then on the inside, there's some rubber heater hose there that will protect that, or actually protect the tire from the sharp edge of the inner wheel well. Then everything's sealed up with silicone between the two, so turned out really good. So that should just about conclude all of this for this round of mods. So looks like in a couple weeks we are loading up and we are heading to Windrock, Tennessee, and we're going to hopefully pay a little visit to our friends down at James Duff and do some serious wheeling down there, and hopefully old Gilligan makes it back in one piece. So say a prayer, and hope you all enjoyed what you saw in this video. If you like it, give it a like. Appreciate it. And we'll see you in Tennessee.
Windrock bound.